They say they care, but they pull away. You get close and suddenly they need space. You try to connect, and they go silent. It feels like whiplash, like you're constantly chasing someone who runs the moment love starts to feel real. If you've ever found yourself asking, why do I feel like the more I give, the more they retreat? You're not alone. I'm Jim Rohn, and in this video, we're breaking down the psychological shifts that make the avoidant want you more without chasing, begging, or abandoning yourself in the process. Here's the truth: avoidantly attached people aren't immune to love. They just fear the vulnerability that comes with it. And when you respond to their distancing by overfunctioning, texting more, explaining more, giving more, they don't feel closer. They feel pressure. Their nervous system interprets your love as something that might trap or overwhelm them. But there's a better way, a healthier way. And it starts with you changing the emotional energy you bring to the dynamic, not by shrinking, but by becoming emotionally grounded, calm, and clear. When you shift how you respond by giving space with warmth, mirroring their emotional pacing, and standing in your self-worth, you stop activating their defenses. And you start activating something deeper: curiosity, respect, and even longing. This video is about the quiet power of secure behavior and how it draws avoidant partners in, not through pressure, but through peace. So if you're tired of feeling like you have to perform to be loved, if you want to understand what truly creates emotional pull for someone with avoidant tendencies, and if you're ready to reclaim your sense of stability in relationships, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and drop a comment below to share your story. Because you don't need to chase love to be chosen. You just need to show up rooted and let your calm become the thing that makes them finally feel safe enough to come closer. Let's dive in. 1. Strategic distance, not coldness, but calm grounding. Let's start with one of the most misunderstood but powerful psychological shifts: strategic distance. And no, this isn't about playing games or giving someone the silent treatment to manipulate them. It's about creating emotional safety, not just for them, but for you. Because avoidantly attached people don't respond well to pressure or emotional urgency. They respond to calm, to space, to subtle signals that say, you are free to come closer, but I won't chase you to make that happen. Here's the hard truth: when someone with avoidant tendencies starts to pull away, your instinct, especially if you lean anxious, is to close the gap. You may reach out more, over-explain, send long texts, or try to reconnect by fixing the tension. But from their perspective, that well-meaning energy feels like pressure. Their nervous system doesn't register it as love, it registers it as a threat to autonomy. And instead of bringing them closer, it pushes them further away. Now, imagine responding differently. Imagine not reacting immediately when the energy shifts. Instead of flooding them with emotion, you take a breath. You say to yourself, this isn't about me being unworthy. This is about their discomfort with closeness. And then you choose to pause, not to punish, not to play it cool, but to create strategic distance. This kind of pause sends a quiet, powerful message: I respect your space, but I also respect mine. You don't go cold. You don't disappear. But you stop the cycle of pursuing. You let the silence breathe so they can begin to feel the absence of your energy. This is the space where an avoidant begins to feel safe enough to miss you. Because here's what most people don't realize: avoidants often reconnect not when they're pressured, but when they're left alone long enough to feel the internal pull on their own. I once worked with a client named Mia. She'd been dating a man with clear avoidant tendencies. Every time things felt close, he would pull back: less communication, more excuses about being busy. In the past, she would panic, reach out, and try to fix the disconnection by being more available. But we tried something different. The next time he distanced, she grounded herself. She gave it 3 days of no contact, no drama, no coldness, just space. And on day 4, he messaged her, saying, I've been thinking about you. I kind of miss your calm. That's the power of strategic distance. It's not withdrawal. It's not stonewalling. It's calm grounding. It's stepping out of the emotional tug of war and saying, I trust myself enough to pause. I trust you enough to choose me when you're ready. This shift isn't easy, especially if you're used to managing the connection. But it's one of the most powerful moves you can make. It teaches the avoidant that intimacy doesn't always mean being consumed. It rewires their experience of closeness from something that traps them to something that gives them freedom and connection. And most importantly, it teaches you that your worth doesn't rise or fall with someone else's ability to stay regulated. You don't have to beg for love. You don't have to prove you're good enough to be chosen. Your grounded pause speaks volumes. It says, I am emotionally safe, but I won't perform for love. So the next time you feel that urge to chase, fix, or over-explain, try something different. Try the pause. Try strategic distance. And watch what happens not just to the connection, but to your own sense of peace. 2. Intermittent, authentic validation, not constant reassurance. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you: validation. If you're someone who gives love freely and generously, you probably believe that constant reassurance helps build trust. And in many relationships it does. But when you're dealing with an avoidant partner, too much reassurance can actually trigger their defenses instead of soothing them. Why? Because avoidants often interpret consistent emotional intensity not as safety but as pressure. Their nervous system has been conditioned to associate closeness with a loss of independence. So when they feel you showing up all the time, validating their every move, checking in too often, or expressing too much emotional availability too soon, they don't relax into it. They start to feel watched, overwhelmed, or even manipulated, even if that's the farthest thing from your intention. This is where intermittent, authentic validation becomes a powerful shift. It's not about withholding affection or playing mind games. It's about giving your emotional warmth in a way that feels real, surprising, and intentional. Instead of constantly reassuring them, you allow your care to be felt in moments unexpected, grounded, and deeply sincere. Think of it like a well-timed compliment or a kind gesture that isn't trying to win them over, but simply reflects what's true in that moment. Here's an example. Let's say you're in a text conversation and it's flowing. Instead of ending it with something like, "I just love talking to you," "I miss you so much, can't wait to see you," which might feel overwhelming or clingy to someone with avoidant tendencies, you simply say, "This was nice. I enjoy our conversations." It's warm, but it doesn't flood them. It gives just enough for them to feel connected without feeling engulfed. Another example, if they're opening up or showing vulnerability, instead of over-celebrating or praising every little thing, you could say, "I appreciate you sharing that. I know it's not always easy for you." That kind of feedback lands as safe because it's calm, grounded, and not emotionally loaded. This style of interaction leverages something known in psychology as the scarcity effect. When something is predictable and constant, the brain begins to tune it out. But when something valuable like affirmation or kindness is offered intermittently and sincerely, it actually holds more emotional weight. It becomes something the avoidant notices and remembers. It becomes impactful instead of background noise. I had a client named Sam who had been in a relationship with an avoidant woman. Early on, he poured his heart out, daily checking in, validating her, always trying to reassure her that she was safe and loved. But instead of bringing them closer, she began to withdraw. With some coaching, Sam shifted his approach. He stopped the constant commentary and instead focused on being present in the moment, showing appreciation occasionally, but only when it felt natural. Within a few weeks, she was initiating more conversations, asking for his input, and leaning into connection. Why? Because she wasn't bracing for emotional pressure anymore. She felt free to engage. The bottom line is this: your emotional presence doesn't need to be loud or constant to be powerful. When you validate less often but more meaningfully, your words land deeper. And avoidants, who are often cautious about letting others in, begin to associate your presence with calm, not control. So don't stop being kind, loving, or supportive. Just stop doing it to earn a response. Give when it's real, not when you're afraid. That shift from anxious validation to authentic expression does more than get their attention. It builds the kind of emotional safety that allows them to actually want to come closer. 3. Matching their emotional pace, not forcing intimacy. Now let's talk about one of the most important and often overlooked shifts when connecting with an avoidant partner: matching their emotional pace. This one can feel counterintuitive, especially if you're someone who leads with openness, vulnerability, and emotional depth. But when you're dealing with someone who has avoidant attachment tendencies, leading too fast even with love can feel like emotional whiplash to them. Avoidants are slow processors when it comes to intimacy. They often want closeness, but at a much slower pace than their partners. And not because they're cold or indifferent, it's because emotional intimacy stirs up a flood of internal responses. Their nervous system isn't wired to relax in emotional exposure. It's wired to assess, protect, and retreat if things start to feel too intense. So when you rush in with deep conversations, big emotional confessions, or intense declarations of connection, they don't feel closer. They feel overwhelmed. That's where this shift comes in. You begin to mirror their rhythm. You learn to slow down, not out of fear, but out of strategy. You stop emotionally outrunning them. If they're opening up at level 2, you don't go straight to level 8. You meet them where they are, matching their level of openness with calm presence and gentle curiosity. It's not about holding back your truth. It's about pacing your vulnerability so it feels safe, not suffocating. Let's look at an example. Imagine your avoidant partner starts sharing something personal, not deeply traumatic, but more than they usually give. Maybe they tell you about a tough week at work or a moment of self-doubt. Your instinct might be to jump in with something deeply emotional to reciprocate, like your childhood trauma or your fears about the relationship. But that's a leap they're not ready to make yet. Instead, you pause. You acknowledge their openness with something simple like, "Thanks for sharing that with me. I really value when you let me in like this." And maybe you share something just one step deeper than what they offered. This keeps you emotionally attuned without overwhelming their system. I had a client named Rachel who always felt like she had to pull emotion out of her avoidant boyfriend. She'd ask deep questions, share openly about her fears and dreams, and he'd often shut down or give short responses. Over time, she felt like he just didn't care. But when we explored it further, it became clear he did care, but her emotional speed felt unsafe to him. She was sprinting emotionally while he was still learning how to walk. When she started slowing down, sharing less but being more present, letting him lead emotionally at times instead of always initiating, he started opening up more. Not in grand gestures, but in small, steady steps. And that consistency built real trust. Because when you match their pace, you send a powerful message. You don't have to be someone else to connect with me. I'm not here to flood you, I'm here to meet you. This doesn't mean you suppress your needs or never bring up important topics. It means you time those conversations with emotional intelligence. You share when the connection feels open, not forced. You lean in when they show signs of safety, not when they're already pulling away. And over time, you teach them that intimacy doesn't have to feel like pressure. It can feel like attunement. The best part, matching their pace doesn't mean sacrificing your truth. It means delivering it in a way that can actually be received. And that's the difference between emotional self-expression and emotional dumping. One builds connection. The other builds resistance. So if you've been feeling like you always have to be the one doing the emotional work, try this shift. Slow down. Get curious. Match their rhythm. Trust that intimacy isn't a race, it's a dance. And the more you sync with their pace, the more likely they are to keep stepping forward on their terms, in their time, toward you. Let's close this out with something you may not hear enough. You don't have to overextend, perform, or chase in order to be wanted, especially by someone with an avoidant attachment style. You don't have to become less emotionally expressive, but you do need to become more emotionally attuned to your own nervous system and theirs. That's where the real power lies. In this video, we broke down 3 key psychological shifts that help create space for an avoidant partner to feel safe enough to connect without losing your voice or self-respect in the process. First, we talked about strategic distance, not pulling away to punish, but stepping back with calm intention so they have space to choose connection rather than feel trapped by it. Then we explored intermittent, authentic validation, which avoids emotional overwhelm while still offering real, heartfelt connection. And finally, we dove into matching their emotional pace, which helps avoidance regulate and build trust without being flooded by intimacy that feels too fast or too deep, too soon. These aren't games. They're secure behaviors that protect your peace while inviting deeper, healthier intimacy. They signal to an avoidant partner, "I see you, I respect you, but I won't abandon myself to keep you." And over time, that becomes the very thing that invites them to show up not out of fear, but from choice. So if this video helped you better understand the avoidant dynamic, or even helped you see your own patterns more clearly, leave a comment below and share what stood out. Your story might be the exact reassurance someone else needs today. And if you want more grounded, emotionally intelligent tools for navigating relationships, understanding attachment styles, and building the kind of love that doesn't feel like walking on eggshells, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Remember, secure love doesn't require shrinking or chasing. It requires showing up with calm, clarity, and boundaries that honor you. The right person won't be scared off by that, they'll be drawn to it. Thanks for being here.